Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the DATEABLE podcast. We are Yue and Julie. Do I sound like a news anchor?
I love it. I love it. People are like, I've been with you for 5 years. Who are you again? But we do have a lot of new listeners, so it probably is good to actually say who the hell we are.
So we're not like random voices. Reporting to you live from LA, and Julie's reporting to you live from San Francisco. Just want to make it sound more official. If you are new to the DATEABLE podcast, our mission is to get to the bottom of people's behaviors. Why do people do the things that they do when it comes to dating? And last week we had this very almost controversial or polarizing episode about Jesse and Cassie, who started out as friends with benefits and now they're married. But the sub-storyline is Jesse used to be this playboy, and then it turned into a family man wanting to settle down with one woman. Julie, were you privy to some of these comments that we got on Instagram, all the DMs that people were sending us?
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a great job responding to them. But between that and the Facebook group, I feel like Janice posed a really good question, just asking people what their experience was. Had they had friends that became more, and how has that worked out? Or do we really believe friendship is the root of relationships? So it was interesting to see the responses on that too, but definitely share with people some of them because there were some interesting Instagram comments that came in for sure.
I think what was up for discussion was Jesse a player, or was he just a guy wanting to explore the world? And I wanted to just address that there are certain things on a podcast we can't talk about because there's some things about our past that we just want to preserve and not for everyone to hear. So in my eyes, I think Jesse was absolutely a player and not a malicious player, just someone who just couldn't see himself being with one woman to shifting to wanting only Cassie. And I think that shift was very drastic. I also think this comment was interesting. Someone said, I always assume that once you are friends with benefits, you get put into that bucket and it's hard to come out of it. And I've seen this happen with friends as well. Once you're in the friends with benefits or in the friends bucket, it's hard to turn that into a romantic bucket. The buckets do not cross-pollinate. But in this situation, I think what was unique about it was that there was so much time in between the two buckets for both of them to evolve and develop.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it for sure is just stage of life that you're in. Like he was in his 20s when he was more of this quote unquote player. And I mean, like thinking back to a lot of us in our 20s, we either didn't know what we wanted or we were exploring and, like experiencing life, whether that was multiple partners or just whatever life threw at you. So I do think there's kind of a combination here of the time. And it's actually like a really good kind of segue to this week's episode, which is all about dating younger men. Because we have Lindsay, who's talking about her experience dating younger men. And I think like initially for me, when I think about dating younger men, and I'm so curious, Yue, to hear your personal experience if you've ever had any with younger men. But I think to me, kind of like what Jesse was like kind of like fuckboy, player, not interested in settling down. And I definitely think I've been proved wrong in this episode, but I think there is that connotation that happens sometimes. I don't know. I think sometimes it is just like your stage of life, like when you're in your 20s and all of that. So I actually find it fascinating that this week we're talking about dating younger men. And we're hearing from Lindsay, who's in her 40s, about dating people that are like 15, I think she said 17 years age gap. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of really interesting things that we'll go into in this episode about just, judgments that she's received, but also how these relationships have been freaking amazing, including the one that she's in today. And I think it actually did teach me a lot personally, because I think I have a little bit of an age bias sometimes, that I assume that younger men aren't going to be serious.
Me too.
More like Jesse, right? Like more fuckboy, out to party. But I think that is an assumption. That's not every guy in their 20s or 30s. That's some guy or early 30s,
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's contextual because if you meet a younger, for me, when I was 35, I dated that 25-year-old. Remember, Julie? And we met at BootieSF, which is not the place to meet like your life partner. So contextually, first of all, it was BootieSF, and we met at like 3 a.m.
Shed light on BootieSF for people that don't live in San Francisco, because every city has one of these. Like BootieSF could literally be in every city.
Julie, the place is called BootieSF. Do I need to expand anymore? BootieSF is the place you go to at midnight, which is really late for San Francisco standards. Nightlife in San Francisco doesn't really go past 2 a.m. So starting your night at 12 is very ambitious because Bootie actually closes at 4. And it's one of those places, it's a warehouse space. They do mashup music. They have different rooms with DJs. But the crowd that it attracts are either those ending their night there, so you can imagine how trashed and disoriented they are, or the older folks who want to watch this safari of wasted, trashed people, and I fall into the latter bucket where I like to just go.
Loved that place so much. Like, I swear to God, like, I feel like Yue and another friend of ours, they'd always be like gunning to go there. And I actually just got major flashbacks as you were talking about it to that one night where the three of us ended up there at like 4 a.m. We were like in the last call group. Do you remember that? And like
last call and God. The oldest people there, I'm sure.
They also stopped serving alcohol. So it's like
that's true.
Just like people that are trashed or on drugs.
The only way they're able to open past 2 is that they have to stop serving alcohol at 2. But because people are so fucking drunk and high and on whatever else by 2 a.m., they don't care that there's just 2 hours of sobriety because they've got enough to last. But that night we were there. I met this guy. He's 25. We had a 10-year age difference. And right off the bat, I was like, this is not going to be a serious relationship. Mm-hmm. But he ended up taking me out on a really nice date. I think he tried really hard. And I felt like I was the one that kept putting him in the other bucket. He was trying to push for something a little bit more, maybe not serious, but at least to prove that he was more than just a 25-year-old looking to fuck, which, by the way, we never fucked. We just finger banged for 10 hours straight.
Why have we been talking about this so much? If you guys were on our live stream, this basically became our topic, and I swear we're adults here. I feel like maybe that is the thing is like sometimes I'm like, okay, my humor could potentially go with someone that's like way younger than me. You know? Right.
You're like, well, my maturity level surely is on par with you, but my life goals are a little bit different. How do we reconcile that? But he was a really nice guy, and I think I had the same feeling as you, Julie, as I felt a little biased. I felt like, oh, you're not even 30. What are you doing? And even if he was looking for a serious relationship, I would have questioned it and asked, why are you even looking for that when you're so young? So anyway, that's my one experience with younger men. But this episode opened my eyes up to some of the things that we just don't think about, which is just like, in general, we make generalizations, and we just need to be more, it's not even being sensitive to it, but just having a more open mind. So I think Lindsay did a really great job of prefacing everything with this is my experience. Yep. This is my partner. This is what I said versus, oh, in most couples where there's an age gap, this is what happens. It's not the case. She cannot speak for every couple out there.
Totally. Actually, Lindsay inspired me to change my
age preference. Right.
So I actually did like this. I did not intend to run a dating experiment with this, but a little one happened this week. So I changed my age bucket. I think before I was like 34 to 44 or something, or 42 maybe. I don't really remember fully. But I basically went to like 30 to 48. And like 30 is pretty, I mean, I'm 37, so that's still a 7-year age gap. Like that's still low. So I went both ways, both directions. And I started talking to people in their 30s, and I started talking to people in their upper 40s, closer to 50. And very fascinating. Like, I mean, again, this is isolated to people. It was not intended to be a dating experiment. It just kind of fell into my lap, and it was ironic because this week is the episode. And I had two people. One was a 48-year-old guy, and literally we had a message. He like asked to do a video date. The day came around, and I asked him if he would mind if we did it as a phone date first and then go into video, because I personally have liked that better. I feel like I can just like, I don't have to get like dressed up for this video date. Like, I can just be a little more casual. Conversation, I think, can flow a little bit better. I get like video, we do it all the time, but there's still a little bit of awkwardness on a date with video, so I like to like get a little comfort level. So anyways, I asked him if he'd be down to do a phone call first, and he basically replied back and was like, it's 2021, video is the norm, like I don't want to waste any time. Yes. And I was like, okay. And like, I mean, I've gone on like countless virtual dates at this point, and no one has ever put up a fight. Like, no guy is like, I mean, honestly, what are we talking about? A half an hour to do a phone call? And I was like, we can do a video after. I'm not like opposed to video.
But the judgment.
I think that's what bothered me, and I was just like, okay. So I replied back, and he's like, well, oh, wait, I forgot the best part. He's like, well, if you don't have a preference, we'll do video, and I'll send you a link at 7. So basically it was like this is happening. Yeah. So I'm like, I was already like turned off, and I'm like, exactly the feeling that you're having. I'm like, well, I don't really even want to talk to this guy right now. So I basically replied, and I'm like, well, I do have a preference. That's why I asked. Like, would you be open? If you're not open to it, then maybe we just shouldn't chat. And then he just immediately blocked me and unmatched.
He unmatched you?
He unmatched me. He never even replied.
What the fuck?
Anyways, not all 48-year-olds. I'm not going to do a judgment, but I think sometimes you think that people mature and they get older, and it is on a person-by-person basis, right?
I just don't understand that. That's like if you tell someone that you want to use a condom and they're like, it's 2021, okay? Nobody uses condoms
COVID,
anymore.
Not an STD, okay?
Like, what the fuck? Why are you judging me for my preferences? Oh my
right.
goodness.
And then he was like, oh, wait, because you don't have any preferences. And I'm like, well, no, I do, or I wouldn't have said anything to you in the first place.
Yeah, no
like,
kidding.
I would have just done it.
Anyways, it has nothing to do with video or phone call. It's the fact that he was so judgy, and he was still persistent in the video date.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up saving me an hour plus, of getting ready and doing this whole thing. But I was just like, okay, well, that is definitely like kind of, a case in point that just because you're older doesn't mean that you're always more mature. And then I also talked to this like lovely 30-year-old. I think he was 30. That was like, seemed like he's like, yeah, I really want to settle down, and like had like this very like conversation that was so not what you would think of as like the fuck boy like parading around BootieSF, right? So I think it
my
really
favorite,
just,
by the way.
I mean, I think I was proven, yes, it's a sample size of 2, but I was proven that like I need to look at people as an individual and not make those blanket judgments on both. And I'm sure there's many 48-year-olds that would happily do a phone call, so I don't want to like place judgment that it's all 48-year-olds either. But it was definitely kind of good to see that in action this week.
Well, then in this episode too, Lindsay brings up the age. There's like your biological age, but then there's all these other ages you have. One of them would be your life stage age. And it just sounds like your other ages aren't really matching, even if your numbers age could match.
Totally. And I mean, like, I personally have pretty much dated within a couple years of myself. Like any like relationship I have, it's been give or take like 1 or 2 years. Like I haven't had major age disparities either direction. I mean, I did have a 4-year gap with like an old Friends with Benefits, the toxic one that I often bring up. And I think some of it was that it was 4 years, but it was at a time in our life that like 4 years actually did make a difference. Like I was like 28-ish and he was like 24. So it did make a difference, I think, in that situation. But I do think like also the older you get, maybe it doesn't matter as much.
Maybe not. I don't really know. I don't really have a theory about age, but what I do think is important to bring up is people tend to say the statement a lot is, I attract younger, or I attract older, or I tend to date people in this age range. It's not actually that's what you're best suited for. It's that once you date one person in that age range, you psychologically, you open yourself up to that age range more. So you end up looking for more people in that age range. It's the same thing with the red car concept. If you are consciously looking for a red car on the street, you'll absolutely find red cars. But if you don't, you may say, "Oh, I haven't seen a red car in years." So it's the same. I think we can stop saying like, "I attract this certain group." It's not really true. It's just that you are just opening yourself up to this group more, and you're noticing them more.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really does have to do with what energy you're putting out too. Like, I have a couple of friends that are with people younger. Like one of our mutual friend that we brought up that went to BootieSF with us. Like, she's dating someone, 10 years younger, and she's always dated younger. And for a long, because she has a very young energy, I think.
Absolutely.
Like, she loves EDM music, and like she's like definitely someone that might have trouble with someone that like wants to just sit at home and like watch Netflix all the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's just a different personality. And for years though, like I am guilty of being like, hey, I think you need to date older. Like maybe that's why things aren't working out, because you're dating these 25-year-old fuckboys. But then she found a 27-year-old that wasn't like that. So like, yes, I think there still is some of that out there. Like there are known like kind of like people progress at certain ages. It's not like totally wrong to like make assumptions, but there's always exceptions to the rule. It's never going to be like everyone.
Yeah, of course. That's just love. Love works in mysterious ways, and we just have to be open to all the ways that it can come to you. So before we get to our interview with Lindsay, shall we make some announcements? We had such a great live stream the other day where we brought on our first community member of the month that we were featuring on the live stream. So he's actually officially our second community member of the month, but the first one we revealed to the entire group through a live stream, Ryan Jeffrey, who then it was like a multi-level reveal. Then he revealed the guy he's been seeing, Matt, on the live stream. So it was like a double like surprise for everyone. It was such a lovely conversation, but during the 30 minutes we talked about finger banging quite a bit. So, like we really like to balance out our conversations with like deep, insightful shit and then finger banging.
This is how we can go old and young. Right?
There we go.
This is how we keep it that we're applicable to all ages.
We're transcendent of it all.
But it was great. We're going to keep doing this with Community Member of the Month. We have already, some people have brought forward 2 people that are nominated. So we'll see who else comes forward. They were actually people that were already top of mind anyways. So definitely, if you're in the Facebook community, if you have someone that you're like, this person, like they just embody all dateable qualities. Like they're, listening to other perspectives, they're supportive, they're not making rash like men suck comments, all of that. And, like that's really what we're looking for, is like those people that take in the different perspectives and they self-reflect also and not just blame others. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to keep doing this. We also have an exciting announcement related to Ryan Jeffrey too. He was also the winner of our merch contest. Is this rigged? Just kidding. I know. I feel like he's been winning a lot lately, but he is also just freaking amazing. So he is. He, had our saying was, own your baggage, don't just carry it around. So the merch is live. We have it now on, sweatshirts, on bags, on a backpack. Like, we got to get the baggage in there. So we have a fanny pack is available. There's a lot. So good. Accessory pouch. Yep, you got it all. So if you've been waiting for this to happen, you can now get it at dateablepodcast.com/shop. And we should put it on underwear. Just, baggage, package. I like it. The same deal. Own it. Don't just. I like it. Don't just. What was it? Bring it around or carry it around? We'll see if that's available. Maybe next week we give an update. And so if you're waiting for your own your baggage underwear, then we'll keep you posted next week. We'll see if that's possible.
Full of good ideas. Anytime.
The other big announcement that we want to make is that this week we have our Dateable After Show that's part of the sounding board with the fabulous Ken Page.
Yay!
Ken
we
Page,
love him.
I know. For anyone that doesn't know him, first of all, go back and listen to his episode. Like, it was phenomenal. It's called Deeper Dating. His podcast is Deeper Dating. His book is Deeper Dating. But he is like a psychotherapist, and he has been like in the like Psychology Today, like author. Like, he's in New York Times. Like, he's like legit. And he is going to take us through like a workshop of basically like how do we date deeper, whether you're dating new people or dating your partner of 10 years. You know, there's always ways to date deeper. And then also, how do we resolve this dating trauma like that comes up, and like use it not to hinder us to date, but use it in a way to like actually date deeper and form connections with new people.
Ken Page is phenomenal on so many levels, but for me, it's really because he talks the talk and he walks the walk. The man went through lots of challenges during his dating life to now being in a loving, committed, strong relationship with his husband. But he's seen it all. He's seen the good, bad, and ugly. He made the mistakes, and he survived them to tell us all about them and the learnings from them. That's why I really respect this man, because he's not just like, oh, I'm in academia, I can tell you about these theories. No, he lived these things.
Yes, he did. So yeah, if you're interested in joining, go to dateablepodcast.com/sounding board. If you can't make the event, you still probably should be in the sounding board. So check it out. We keep hearing from people just like how incredible this community is. And we see it firsthand ourselves. Like, I talked to, we'll give a shout out to Michael, one of our members. I talked to him the other day, and he was saying like, it's like he didn't even realize like all the treasures in the chest of this. Like, he's like, every day I like find something new in this community. He's like, I didn't even realize like the happy hours were like these like insightful conversations and like fun, like, you know, like, I don't know. I think sometimes people think like Zoom happy hours like freaking kill me now, but this is not how they are. And I think sometimes it's just experiencing it. And, you know, like, if it's not for you, you can always leave. It's not like you have to do like 10-year commitment. It's on a month-to-month basis. So it's in a way, it's pretty risk-free.
And for all of you new to us, new to Dateable, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to find out more about Sounding Board and what it is, it's a curated community that's an extension of our podcast. Something I really missed during the pandemic is a sense of community. And just our live stream last night, you could really feel the community of what is presented in this group. The fact that when Ryan brought up Matt, people knew who he was. They're like, Matt, oh, that's the guy you've been talking about. I missed that. Oh, Julie got really excited.
Matt. Yeah. My whole mic almost fell over.
Well, just say it. Don't break it. My goodness. But
it's true, though.
It was so
People
fun.
all knew Matt. Yeah.
People were so excited to meet Matt, who Ryan's been talking about. But when you step back, you're like, oh my gosh, nobody's really met in person yet. Yet we're so invested in each other's personal lives. So that's what I really think is like the biggest value from the community. It's that sense of community.
I think it's funny, too, is that, like, Ryan was in the general public Facebook group for a bit. And I think he actually talked to Janice, our moderator, and he's like, I'm interested in the sounding board, but I don't really have time on Thursdays. Like, I don't know, I have a lot going on. I'm on a lot of these meetings already. I don't know if I want to do, like, video. So he joined at, like, the lowest level to just give it a shot. And actually, he said even just to support the podcast. Like, I'll go when I can. I won't when I won't, you know? And now he's literally there every week, and he's upgraded to like the events tier, and he's like there like constantly. And he's like, you know, you make time for what you want to make time for. So I think when people say that, like, it might be that you just don't know the value yet. That's totally valid. But I think ultimately, like, if something is good for us, it feeds our soul, it nourishes us, we're going to make the time for it. And again, like, people are like, well, the cost, I think we do have things at very affordable levels for all. And again, people make time and they pay for things that they want to pay for. That's the end of the day. And, you know, like, if people have other priorities, that's cool too. But people do love love this and definitely think people should check it out. Okay, so shall we get to Lindsay? Let's hear Lindsay's story all about dating younger men.
Ooh, please.